Alright, so we'd like to welcome you to Shear Consulting. We're going to be going over the first section of the test, which is going to be the work area and client protection with the setup of supplies. So as you see here, we have our list of supplies. We've got hand sanitizer, paper towels, toner. You can also use astringent, basically like an aftershave, something like that. A bottle of water, a water bottle, because what you will do, and you'll see this later on, is that you have to pour a fresh bottle of water into the water bottle. Spatulas, section clips, a tripod or a stand, and also to have your 3 bags that are labeled soiled linen, and also another bag labeled trash, and also another one labeled to be disinfected, or items to be disinfected. So we're going to get into our video in a second. We're going to get started. So we see here the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to disinfect your work area. Now what you're going to notice is, as Danielle's going over her station right here, she's taking a disinfected cleaner or wipes. That's what the state board right now prefers here in Georgia, is to use wipes rather than sprays. So it's known that right now it's difficult trying to find the hospital grade disinfectant wipes. So with that being said, they have told us at our state board meetings that it's okay to just use a Clorox wipes or some type of disinfectant wipes. But if you notice there's a tag that's on it that says Barbicide wipes, and what they really want you to do is, if you can, go onto the Barbicide website, print out that label, and literally just attach it to or tape it to whatever wipes you choose to use. So we see that we have not only our supplies that are general supplies, or aka universal supplies, but we also have our hair cutting supplies that were set up as well. You also saw the 3 bags that were labeled that we talked about earlier as well. So we're going to go over the hair cutting supplies here as well, because this is important, because you're going to have the work area set up along with the setup for the haircut at the same time. So that's why it's breaking this down. So now this is where you set up your mannequin. You have a towel to drape, or you can use a neck strip. I prefer a towel. Then you have a dust-off towel, clippers, your razor, wide tooth comb or tapered comb, and shears. Now these are the basic things that she has specifically for the haircut. But the main thing to focus on is notice that she has section clips up there. You can have section clips on your station as part of your general supplies or universal supplies that will always stay on your station in the back. So those items that you see in the back, those items that you notice that are on the back of the station, those will never move. Those, for the most part, will always stay on your station. They won't come down off the station, because you're going to be using all those items at some point multiple times throughout the exam. All right, so if you think about it, you're going to use wipes throughout the exam, paper towels throughout the exam, so you don't need to put those down or put those away. All right, so now she's starting her haircut. Now, what kind of haircut do we have to do? For the Georgia State Board, it is a tapered haircut, tapered on the sides, tapered on the back, and shear over comb work on the top, or shear and comb work on the top. The reason why is because they want to see different techniques. Okay, so on the back, you are only allowed to do clipper over comb work. So right here, she's taking down the bulk using her wide tooth comb. And again, this is only clipper over comb work that she can use in the back. So she's using that wide tooth comb to be able to just take down a lot of that bulk, to just get it out of her way. And then she's going to start her tapering techniques. But again, in the back, you can only use clipper over comb. On the sides, you will be able to use your guards. And on the top is only shear and comb work. So this angle right here is basically just showing her taking bulk down off the back of the client's neck, and then you're going to start to see her use more techniques in terms of being able to literally take this hair down. What you want to remember more than anything else, honestly, with this haircut, and just in general with all the different services that you're doing, that you're performing here for State Board, is that they do not care. The proctors and examiners do not care how well you can cut hair. Their focus is strictly on making sure that you're working safely, and making sure that you're doing things in a sanitary way. A good haircut is subjective. A good hairstyle or good work is subjective. You could have a client that swears by his or her barber, and then that same person could go to somebody else and realize that and think that the work really isn't that good. So when it comes to a good haircut, that's subjective based on who's judging that particular haircut. So when it comes to these services, don't get stuck on trying to do the best taper you've ever done in your life. Don't get stuck on trying to do the best haircut. Just know that you have 40 minutes to make sure you complete what you're supposed to complete in that time frame. Okay? Now that's one of the things that we didn't mention specifically already, is the time frame. When you do your setup of your supplies at the beginning, that's going to be 10 minutes long. They're going to give you 10 minutes to do that. And then as far as the setup for the haircut and as far as actually completing the haircut, they give you 40 minutes for that. So that's really more than enough time to really do what you need to do to show the different techniques that they want to see. Okay? So what you're noticing now is she's about to start working on tapering the back of the neck a little bit closer. So now we have a little bit more of a closer angle to be able to see exactly what's going to take place here on the neck of the client. She's already taken bulk out of the way. So now she's going to start to really get closer on that taper, because they want to see that it's going from light to dark. So now she's angled the head down, and she has the clipper closed, and she's using a C-stroke motion. She's using that in and out motion to be able to bring up that taper and start that taper in the back. Now, she did a taper that I would consider to be a closer, higher taper, which is fine. Again, what you want to show is a taper that goes from light to dark. Light in the bottom to darker on the top. So she's about probably about a solid inch up. And again, as I mentioned, you don't have to start as high, but as you're going to see by the time that we get to the end, she's going to blend it out very well. Now, for those of you that don't know, as now we see that she opened the clipper, and now she's going to start to kind of buff that out and blend that out a little bit. But for those of you that don't know, Danielle is a licensed cosmetologist, but does have a haircutting background. So she is comfortable using the clippers, even though it's not really something that's her first choice, I guess you could say. But she does a really good job with this haircut across the board. So you see how now that hard line is already starting to come out, because what she's doing, she's riding that heel of the clipper and coming in and out with that clipper open. Again, this is all clipper over comb, and you're going to see her go through and use different techniques to be able to blend this out. So now she's starting to go up a little bit higher, and you're just going to see her start to buff this out. So she went to her wide tooth comb. She realized that she really didn't need to keep using the taper comb because she wanted to get a little more of that bulk out. So she went to the wide tooth comb, and she's being a little more aggressive to kind of get some of this bulk out of her way. So now we notice that she's coming up a little bit higher, just getting that bulk out of her way. Now, the reference point that you want to bear in mind is the occipital bone in the back of the head. So where she's at right now is about as high as you want to go in terms of being able to get this bulk out of your way. Because again, you're doing a taper haircut where it's tapered on the side and tapered on the back, and you're taking down hair off the top of the head. So you're taking down the sides, and then you basically are trying to tie in the top with what you do on the sides, if that makes sense, right? So now we see that because she's taking that bulk out of her way, you can really see that the taper itself is starting to fall in place in the back. Again, she's getting that bulk out of her way. Now notice too, she didn't start with a mannequin that had really long hair. It doesn't make sense to do that, right? It doesn't make sense to start with a mannequin that has a lot of hair, because all you want to do is bring a mannequin in that looks like it needs a haircut, if that makes sense. So, just like a client would come in with hair to the point where it looks like he just needs to get a haircut, that's what you want it to look like. You don't want it to be a long-haired mannequin because you're making a lot of work for yourself. So now we see that she has the taper comb and she's going in and she's just lightly starting to taper up that neck area a little bit more and really just fine-tune it. Because again, this is clipper over comb only in the back. Clipper over comb only. No, there's no guard work that you can do on the back side or the back of the haircut down the nape. It literally is just doing clipper over comb work. She's still just fine-tuning it to an extent. And what I like about this haircut that she does is that you're going to notice that by the time that she's done with the whole haircut, she's going to go back and fine-tune it and shear it up a little bit. It's going to fall right into place. So you can see that that back is nice and smooth, and she's likely going to be going to the side section shortly. Or the side, one of the sides, I should say, to start with her tapering using her guards. Yep. Okay. So now she's going to put on one of her bigger guards. Now, what guard should you use? That's really up to you. If you use universal guards, you want to take, you know, some of your bigger ones to get the bulk out of your way. But you want to make sure that you're also bringing some smaller guards to be able to do your whole taper. You know, what the state board is trying to just make sure that you know how to do is use your clippers, clipper over comb in the back, as I mentioned before, and then also utilize guards in the side, but then also know that and also see that you know how to use or do shear work. So again, the focus here is on literally just doing what they asked for, which is a tapered haircut in the side and the back. So she has her big guard on right now. She's using universal guards. She has her big guard on, and she's getting bulk out of the way before she starts to taper down closer. Now, if you notice how that clipper that she has a cord on it. That's required. You're required to have a corded clipper. It has to have a cord on it for your clipper, for the haircut portion. Now, you also might have noticed that as far as the supplies go, that I didn't list trimmers. Now, you can bring trimmers to outline, you know, the neck area and around the ear and all, etc. But to be honest with you, it's not really necessary to bring trimmers because she's actually doing her arching technique right now. And you can also do that arching technique with a pair of shears, right? So with it being a mannequin, the most important thing is that they just want to see you can utilize your tools properly. So to actually use a pair of trimmers isn't technically really necessary because trimmers are for detail work, but you can also do a lot of detail work using shears. So she got the bulk out of her way, and now she is starting to do her taper on the sides. Now, what's interesting about this is, so she has the clipper closed, but notice how she's still coming in and out. She's not deliberately making a hard line. So now she opened the clipper up, working on her technique, still coming in and out. And now you can see how it's starting to get to that light to darkness. So now she puts her guard on, and now she's going to start to utilize her guards to be able to actually do a blend that goes from light to dark, as we just mentioned. Now, the angle that she's cutting it at is because, see, if you notice that the hair is kind of growing back, it's not coming straight down on that side right there. That's why she's kind of cutting at different angles. So she's getting some bulk out of her way. And to be honest with you, because of the type of haircut that she's doing, she could probably stop doing this part right here in the side and start going to the other side, do the same thing, and then start to work on her on cutting the hair off on the. Oh yeah, see, that's what she did. She had already really done enough. That's what I was getting at. She'd already done enough to be able to make sure that she tapered that side out, because again, she's going to do the same thing on this side, and then she's just going to come back and tie in the top with the sides anyway. So as you can see here, she put that big guard on, and she's going to start taking this bulk off on this side. just to get it out of her way. It doesn't make sense to try to start doing a close taper when there's all this hair on top of it, on top of the section that you're cutting. Get all that hair out of your way because you know you're going to cut it off anyway. So take the big guard, get that bulk out of your way, and then work from there. So again, you see that she's starting to use her clipper to be able to, in that big guard, to get bulk out of her way. And she's being careful just to make sure that she doesn't cut too much off, but she wants to make sure she gets it just right. Now, for all your sections, just a reminder, what will happen is you're going to have a proctor and an examiner. The examiner is going to make sure that he looks at, or he or she actually watches the steps that you're taking to make sure you're doing things properly. The proctor literally just reads the instructions. Now, halfway between each section, they're going to remind you when your time is halfway done. So as an example, this section is 40 minutes long. So at the 20-minute mark, they're going to tell you have 20 minutes remaining. All right. So she has the bulk out of her way, and now she's going to come back and start to do her taper. So she's tapering a little bit, probably higher than she needs to over the ear. She really doesn't have to do that. I think she's making a little bit more work for herself than she needs to. But technically speaking, is that still a taper on the side? Technically, it is. And the reason why is because once you get to that forward part of the ear, from you know, like the front of the ear to like your cheek, that's technically considered the side of your head. So she still is tapering the side. It's just that her angle could actually be a little bit lower to make it easier for herself. So she started the bottom level, but now she's going in and she's starting to taper out that top part in terms of taking that bulk out of her way. So you notice she put that middle guard back on, or on, I should say, because the first guard was one of the bigger ones. And now she's just getting bulk out of her way. What makes doing this haircut interesting too is because you have to use different techniques. It really goes to show how utilizing different techniques in cutting can help to fine-tune different haircuts. So for instance, right here, now she's taken off her guard and she's literally just using an open clipper to kind of fine-tune it and start to get that blend from light to dark. And what you're going to notice is once she's done with this side, she's going to go to the top, and then she's going to start to really tie everything in. So you see now she has one of the smaller guards on, and she's starting to kind of really buff it and blend it so it looks from light to dark. And it looks more smooth going from the top down. What you don't want to have on a taper is where it just looks light then dark all of a sudden. And that's what you're trying to avoid. So even though, as I mentioned earlier on, the focus isn't on trying to do the perfect taper for the skateboard haircut, and it is about following directions and being safe, you also want to make sure that you're doing a blend that looks light to dark, as I mentioned before. So that bottom level wasn't quite light enough for her, so now she's coming back and she closed the clipper on the bottom. Now she opened it back up and she's kind of just taking that little bit of a faint line out. So now she's sanitizing her hands. She stopped working on the sides. Eventually she sanitizes her hand. There she goes. So she sanitizes her hands. She sanitizes her wrists too. And that's a common theme that you'll notice in our videos, to sanitize the hands and the wrists. We'll explain why later. She pours the water in her water bottle. And now she's going to spray the top of the head, because now she's going to start to do her shear work. And when it comes to the shear work, this, as I mentioned before, is what's going to help to tie in the whole haircut. Now, what you're going to notice is she does a lot of different techniques, or I shouldn't say a lot of different ones, but this is just one way of how to do this. Okay. Now, when you go to different schools or you have different barbers, different stylists, there's a lot of different ways to do the same type of haircut. Okay. Don't ever feel like it has to be cut one way in one exact, or that there's one specific way to have to cut somebody's hair. That's just not true. This is just one technique that works really well for her. So that's why she's going to use it. So, this is just one example. Okay, but I think that you'll see at the end, you're gonna like how it ties, how it completely ties in. And even right now, like I can see a couple of areas where she's gonna want to tighten it up a little bit, and she will. So right now, she's just using her shear comb technique. She's gonna use the shear comb technique a little bit in the back area, because she's already demonstrated that she obviously knows how to do the clipper of a comb in the back. What she's doing right now is just kind of tightening things up. So she parted the hair off, and now she's starting to use her shears and shear over comb technique, slowly going up the side of the head to lighten up those areas. So if you look in the middle right there, you can see where it's still heavy, where it's still dark. So that's what she's actually doing right now, is she's going through those areas, and the higher that she goes up, the more out she comes. So you can see the difference between the right and the left hand side there, right? On that right hand side, you can see how it's really flowing down nice and smooth. And the more she goes to her left, you can see where the hair is still a little bit heavy, and she's starting to go hit that right now. All right. The most important thing when it comes to doing shear over comb work is making sure that your comb and your shears are moving in unison together. So as you notice, she's combing the hair, or rather she's lifting the hair up as she's using her shears to come up the head. See, if you just stop, then it's easier just to cut a chunk or cut a gap. So that's why she's combing it and cutting at the same time. And again, you can start to see how it's really falling into place already when it comes to the difference between the height on the where her parting is, and down the back of the head and the nape area. So this is why it's actually a good idea to start just putting section clips in for the universal supplies, because you have to section the hair off to an extent and get that top hair out of your way if you want to trim the back and the sides. It just makes it a lot easier. So the technique that she's using, I like to call it like the pie technique. And if you read your Milady textbook, this is a similar technique where it's literally like you're working up to the top of the head by just cutting little small pieces of the pie and going around the head until you reach the top. And then you can start to cross-check it, etc. All right, and you'll see that a little bit later. Now wait till you get to the side here. On the left-hand side, you can already see how it's a little bit longer on the left-hand side. So I'm looking forward to seeing how she cuts this. She enjoys cutting, so it's really cool to kind of see it in action, even if it is on a mannequin. So notice how she's kind of pulling that section again all the way around that crown area. She's combing all that down. And now she's going to start to do finger and shear work. Oh, not yet. I was wrong. She's still doing, okay, yeah, so she went back to the side to finish that side up. So she just pulled her section down, or the parting down on the top, but she's working the shear work on the side. All right, so now she's doing finger and shear work. Now notice what she's doing here. She's pulling little small sections. She gets out of her way. She picks it up, puts it in between her fingers, palms the comb, makes her cut. The cut should not go past the second knuckle. Gets the hair out of the way, between the fingers, palms the comb, makes her cut, not past the second knuckle. It was about to go past her second knuckle, so she dropped it and went back and got it. Now she's fixing her hair that's clamped up on the top because it's starting to get in her way. It's starting to fall down. So those pieces are done, so now she keeps moving forward. So you can see it, right? You can see how it's starting to fall in place from where the top is. Well, I should say from the sides down to the... No, let me rephrase that. Basically, from the parietal ridge area, it's starting to fall in place so it falls in line with what the sides are. Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. Because remember, the parietal ridge is where the comb leaves the side of the head. So if you lay the comb flat above the ear, where that comb leaves the head, that whole region, that whole area around the head is considered your parietal ridge. So now she's taking her next parting. It's about a 1/2 inch parting all the way around. Finger and shear works, lifting it up between the fingers, palm the comb, cut the hair. And like I said, you literally can see it start to fall into place. So now we're going to switch the angle up a little bit in a second. And we're going to be able to see the top portion a little bit easier. So now you still see how it's showing how she's lifting up the hair. And she's pulling these still pulling the little pie pieces, I guess you could, or the slices of the pie around the head, putting it between her fingers and taking down the bulk. But this is a way to be able to make sure you systematically are doing it so that it flows nice and easy. And as I mentioned before, as she gets close to the end, she'll be able to show how she's cross-checking it to make sure it's even all the way across. So now she's just combing it all the way back to make sure it's flowing down, and you can see that it is. And now she's going to pull another section. So now she doesn't have to do all the way around. At this point, she just has to do from the front to the back, because she's already gone all the way around. But now she's at the top of the head. So right now she's just coming across, and she's using the last piece that she cut. As she goes from right to left, she's using the last piece or the last section she cut on the right as her guide for where to cut on the left. So you're gonna see how it starts to fall in place as she pulls this back. So she's gonna comb the hair back in a minute after she does this subsection, and then she's gonna pull another section or another parting right in front of this one and do the same process. Yeah, so she just combed it back, and now she's on the next piece. Yeah, see, and you can see how long that section is on the top. That's what she's about to trim. Another angle, just showing literally how she's able to lift up this hair, pull up the subsections. And when you see her picking the hair up and dropping it down, it's because it's already even. If it's uneven, like right here, boom, she's gonna see it, she's gonna cut it and get it even. If it's even, there's no reason for her to do any cutting, so she just drops it back down. Here we go again. She sees a little bit uneven, she's gonna cut it. We're gonna back out of this angle just a tiny bit. You can see it right there at the tip. Boom. She's going to go get it. It was going past her second knuckle, so she went back in to go get it. Done. Same thing on the sides. At this point, she's just going in and kind of just cross-checking and just checking to see if there's any areas that seem like they're a little bit too long. And she's able to go in and just double check it. So right here, she sees it's a little bit uneven. No, she let that one go. So that one must have been okay. But if she sees that it's uneven at all, like right there, she's gonna go in and get it. Yeah, she just pointed it out, trying to show off. So she's gonna do that all the way around as she just double checks and cross checks everything on the head. Same thing. So as we get ready to start to wrap this haircut up, and she's gonna comb it out shortly and kind of like, and you'll be able to really see how it's all flowed down now and just about done. But this again, this is just one way to be able to do this haircut. All right. Again, the skateboard haircut that you have to do is going to be literally a tapered haircut on the side and the back. In the back, it has to be clip over comb. On the sides, you have to use your guards, and on the top is shear over comb work. All right. So using the shears and doing shear work is so important. You know, as I mentioned before, if you do clip over comb in the back, and then you do all your work on the sides and on the top, and you go back in and have to do like some tweaking and you use your shears to do it, that's more than fine. Because the reality is that they want to get us away from just strictly using one type of implement or tool or one specific technique. So that it just shows the importance again of being able to utilize different techniques to be able to do a haircut. So again, at this point, she's just fine-tuning it. One of the things too to bear in mind is don't spend, and I know we mentioned this earlier on, but just don't spend too much time on one specific section. You know, like if your stronger point is using your guards, then just focus on the shear work more so than the guard work, because you know you can be able to go back and do all your guard work faster, because that's what you're used to. If you're more comfortable doing work with the shears, then make sure you leave more time for your guard work or your clip over comb. Now the last piece is literally just demonstrating that you know how to do reverse backhand down the back of the neck. So it didn't show it, but she just applied some astringent, or you just want to show that you know how to do that technique where you're going to shade down the back of somebody's neck. All right. So you're going to show that at the very end of the haircut. Once you're done, you want to discard of all the different materials that you use in the right bag or the right container. And I say or container because in the NIC instructions, it says that you can use discard bags or discard containers. They did suggest, however, that you do use bags, which is what you saw at the beginning of our video. Because those bags can be, or a paper bag with a plastic liner is really perfect for what they are asking for. So we know that you appreciated the video. If you have any questions, let us know. Shear over Comb Consulting, you know what it is. shearovercomb.org.